Hey, we're Josh and Shelly Buck, and welcome to the big show. I mean, the little show. I mean, the show that only Shelly's elementary boyfriend watches. That's right.
Today we're going to talk about grief and the story of the death of our daughter and how we survived and eventually came to thrive again. So on August 1st of 2005, it was a normal day. It was the first day of Josh's new job. I remember calling my best friend and being like, it's the first day of Josh's job and I've got food in the crock pot and I'm doing laundry and the baby is napping. Because our youngest daughter was 3 months old, I thrived on that kind of order. It was just a good day. It felt like the beginning of something.
So I was on my way to Ionia in a big box truck to pick up some equipment. She was at home, and that's just kind of how our day started.
It was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I realized that Ava had been napping a little longer than I had anticipated. And so I went upstairs to wake her up so that she could be awake for a little bit before she went back down. And I walked into her bedroom, and the box fan that was in the window had fallen out of the window and into her crib. And when I went in there to pick her up, when I picked her up, I knew she was gone. And I remember holding her and staring into this mirror that was in the girl's bedroom and screaming downstairs to my mom, who happened to be over, and screaming, "Mom, my baby's dead." I remember running down the stairs with her, putting her on the living room floor, and knowing I needed to start CPR. Her color actually did start to improve. And we were waiting, during doing CPR, we were waiting for the ambulance to arrive. I remember leaning over her and prayerfully kind of crying out to God, knowing that He was capable, He was able to save her. I didn't know that His plan might be that this was her whole life.
So I was at Wendy's in Ionia, and I got a call from my father-in-law, and it was terrible because the signal was broken up. And all I heard was, "Josh, accident, fan, Ava might not make it." I started thinking, what in the world could have happened with a fan? Did the ceiling fan fall out of the ceiling? Or so I borrowed a friend's car and left the box truck there and just started driving like a bat out of hell. Driving down 96 on the wrong side of construction barrels. Called 911, said, "Hey, I'm driving like a maniac, but here's why." The 911 operator, she kind of gave me some tips as to where to go. And when I pulled off of 96, I got a call from your mom. And I'm sure it's a call that she was terrified to make. But she said, "Sorry, Josh, Ava didn't make it." I just threw my cell phone as hard as I could up into the dashboard, and I just thought, what do I do in this moment? And I sang some words to, is it a Matt Redman song?
Mm-hmm.
You give and take away, you give and take away. My heart will choose to say, blessed be your name. And I didn't mean those words, but I wanted to mean those words. I think it's from, a verse in Job. But I just drove the rest of the way home. And when I got there, there were the ambulances and the
Fire trucks.
Yeah, fire trucks. It was
Mayhem.
Lights everywhere.
The ambulance had done everything they could, and I saw them walking around the side of the doors. And I knew, watching them walk toward me, what they were going to say. And they told us that there was nothing else that they could do and that she was gone. My very first thought about God was, God, how can you be a good God and not fix something like this? that ruminated in my soul for a long time. Just knowing that God was able to fix it, and yet his answer was no, and he chose not to.
Kind of my initial thoughts were, hey, we just started a church. We're serving you, God. I'm a pastor. Why us? I shared that with a friend a couple months after the fact, and he said, okay, don't hate me for saying this, but when a tornado comes through town, let's say it's going through a trailer park, it doesn't just jump from the houses of not a good person to another house who's not a good person. It just comes through and it takes out a swath of destruction. It made sense, but I hated that he said that.
Our hearts were just broken. We did have a choice of continuing to walk with the Lord or walking away. And in those first few days, it was a given that we knew that if we walked away from the Lord, we were not only losing our daughter, but losing our faith. And that was not something that we had any interest in doing or that we thought was going to help us at all.
Blonde-haired girl from across the room changed my life with just a glance.